You know, you should never read the comments. Never read the comments. But I made the mistake of reading a comment someone wrote, and I was not mentioned, but knew I'm one of the people it was directed at. That Democrats are running with this weird attack, calling Republicans weird, calling Trump and Vance weird, and we got Republicans lecturing us that we can't call her a DEI pick or a single cat lady. And this is why we lose. We just don't fight like the left. I bet there are some of you who agree with that. I have said do not call her the DEI pick or the single cat lady, because there are groups of people who are neither, but who get defensive about them because those comments have been made towards them. And you're going to, in a very close race, you're going to lose people who might come to you. I want to talk to you about this, and I want to explain this to you, because some people don't want to get the point. It's true. Some people just don't want to get the point. Some people can't ever acknowledge they're wrong. Y'all know the people, Philip, who just, they'll be wrong about something and just can't acknowledge it. They have to double down. Unlike them, I've run political campaigns quite successfully before I got into radio. I don't do it while I'm on radio because I personally find it would be a conflict of interest if I was running someone's campaign and was talking about that person on the radio trying to build up their candidacy. I think it would be a conflict of interest. It would be a disservice and dishonest to you as well. So I don't run campaigns anymore, but I loved running campaigns, and I was very good at it. I was so good at running campaigns, I got myself elected. So let me just explain this to you, because there actually is a philosophy that if you're not running campaigns, you're just an aggressive grassroots activist. You need to at least understand the philosophy here of why you can make some attacks and not other attacks. What you don't want to do when you make attacks is make attacks that alienate you from persuadable people. Let's take the DEI pick. Yeah, I actually like the argument, I'll be honest, because it is. Although if we're really honest about it, it wasn't a DEI pick so much as it was a constituency pick. Presidential candidates pick people who help them either bring a coalition together or reward a coalition that got them over the finish line. Black women got Joe Biden over the finish line, so it was a pick to award a key constituency. But he was very open, despite what the media would have you believe now. He was very open that he was only going to pick a black woman. Kamala Harris was it. So you can say DEI pick, but the more accurate phrasing is that this was a reward to black women for getting him across the finish line. Had it been white union men who got him across the finish line and not black women, you wouldn't be calling it a DEI pick, but it would have been based on the same philosophy when he picked a white union operative to be his vice presidential pick. But because of race and gender, you wouldn't call it a DEI pick. That's why it's not really, but I totally get it is. However, there's a problem. When you say Kamala Harris is a DEI pick, you're speaking into a community of non-white Americans who have been stigmatized by affirmative action. This is why so many Hispanic and Asian voters, and even a plurality of black voters, have wanted to get rid of affirmative action. Because right now there is someone listening in this audience who is not white and has a good job because in the meritocracy they succeeded. And yet people around them whisper, is this because he's black? You know that's true. If you don't know that's true, you live a very sheltered existence where you don't know a lot of non-white people, and you probably should know more, because a great many of them are highly competent and highly qualified and got the job because of their hard work, sweat, and education. And to this day, some of them are looked at and thought of as, well, that was an affirmative action hire. And it wasn't. So when you call Kamala Harris a DEI pick, these people who probably don't like her get defensive for her because they've gone through the same thing, and it makes them defensive. If you're going to do a personal attack, you can't alienate groups that you might persuade to vote for you. It's the same thing with the single cat lady. I have myself have raised the single cat lady criticism. And you all know what we're talking about. You would call them Karens, except all the women named Karen would get upset with it, but you knew what you're talking about. But the single cat ladies, they don't want kids. They have a career. They have a cat. They stay home. Their house smells like cat pee. And they're totally happy with it. They wear their sweatpants everywhere they go, and they are super, super, super liberal, and they don't like kids. They don't want kids. They want to contribute nothing to the perpetuation of the nation. Problem is, there are a lot of women who get lumped into single cat women who happen to not be able to have children but would desperately love to have kids. So I actually know a lot of women. I have a lot of female listeners who complain every time I raise the single cat woman stereotype. These are conservative women who get very defensive about it because they tried to have kids and they could not have kids. So you've now, with the DEI attack or with the single cat woman attack, you've alienated a group of people who, if you're a presidential or vice presidential candidate, you want to vote for you. You've put them on defensive for people they don't like, and that makes them even more angry at you because they don't like Kamala Harris, but they feel like they've got to defend her because in defending her, they're actually defending themselves. That's why weird works. Very few of you listening, even the weird ones, very few of you would characterize yourself as weird. The weird people are the other people. They're not you. You're not weird. Now, some of you like to be contrarian. You like to embrace it. Don't call me and say, I love being called weird. I'm not talking about you because you actually are a freak. Most people don't want to be called weird. Most people actually want to be seen as normal. So you're not alienating people when you say that J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are weird. You're otherizing them in a way that separates them from everybody else. I hope this makes sense to you. There is a philosophy here. Calling someone weird otherizes them without drawing a whole group of other people into the smear, except that person's core supporters, and they're not voting for you anyway, so you don't care. They can all be weird together and be otherized from other voters who, because they're weird, say, I don't want to be on the weird side. I'm voting for Kamala Harris. So Republicans need to find the identifying attack on Harris that otherizes her without alienating large groups of voters. I have one. She's a ladder climber. You all know people who are ladder climbers. When I was in law school, there was a joke they told us the first week in law school. 2 law school students are in the woods, and a bear approaches them. The one law student sits down, takes off his hiking boots, and puts on running boots. And the other law student says, buddy, what are you doing? And he says, I got to run. He says, well, you just wasted time. And the law student who just put his running shoes on looks at him and says, buddy, I don't have to beat the bear. I just have to beat you. And the moral of the story is help each other out. Don't try to beat your friend so that he can be mauled by the bear. Actually help your friend. That was the way the story was interpreted. You all know those people. Bill Clinton never got 50% of the vote. In fact, in 92, he got like 43% of the vote. Ross Perot was in there. Some of Ross Perot's vote, a lot of it would have actually gone to Clinton. He still would have gotten to 50%. People didn't actually jihad to Bill Clinton as much as the Democrats would have you believe because they saw a deeply ambitious man who coveted the presidency. When he was a kid, he got to meet John F. Kennedy. Then he became the attorney general, and then he became the governor. And then, of course, he's going to run for president at a time that no Democrat thought they could win. He's running for president against a World War II hero who had been shot down in the Pacific and had won the Cold War, and he wins. But people always saw Bill Clinton was one of those guys, and you all know that person who, since they were in kindergarten, said, I'm going to run for office. They built their resume just so. And every American knows someone like that, and no American likes that person. No one ever identifies as that person either. And if you thought it was bad for Bill Clinton, for Hillary Clinton, this is why I've made this comment this morning. People are like, oh, I think that'll turn off women. No, married women voted against Hillary Clinton. They voted for Donald Trump because they saw that she was nothing but a resume building ladder climber. It's the same with Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris wants to climb the ladder of power. She was willing to have affairs with married men who were more powerful than her until she was more powerful than them, and then broke it off and found a more powerful man to climb the next rung of the ladder. Until she could consolidate enough power, she didn't have to build her next step based on the power of other men. She could build it on her own power and clout. She started arresting black men in California, throwing them in prison, so that she could prove to white people that she was tough on crime and she would be a law and order person. She gets elected to office and needs the left and begins to lament all the black men in prison that she herself put there. But pay no attention to that, please. She became a progressive acolyte of the left-wing causes out there. She started embracing bans on fracking and getting rid of private health insurance and all these other things in 2020. And then she stood on a stage and accused Joe Biden of distinct, not just racism, but perpetuation of racism of others, nearly destroying him. And then was perfectly happy to be his vice president, despite thinking he's a racist on a campaign stage, because she wants to climb the ladder. She will say anything, do anything, and discard any prior statement, opinion, and belief just to get ahead. And Americans do not like ladder climbers. It has nothing to do with her being a woman, although the left may certainly portray that. It has everything to do with the fact that she's a ladder climber. She's an opportunist. She has no principle position that she will hold on to other than herself. You and this country are expendable to her ambitions, just like it was with Hillary Clinton, just like it is with many, many men who get rejected by the voters because they come across as the schmarmy opportunist who only wants to take the next rung up the ladder in politics. J.D. Vance may be weird, but at least he's got principles. J.D. Vance may be weird, but at least he didn't conspire with government officials into a cover-up of the president's health so that he could hold on to power like Kamala Harris did. J.D. Vance may be weird, but J.D. Vance stands for something other than himself. All Kamala Harris stands for is herself. And by the way, the Democrats may be calling the Republicans weird, but that name-calling doesn't improve the price of groceries that skyrocketed under the Biden-Harris administration. If you're going to find an attack on Kamala Harris, find a personal attack on her that doesn't alienate you from large groups of voters. And I would submit to you, instead of saying she's the DEI candidate or the single cat lady, she's the political opportunist, the one that nobody likes, the Tracy Flicks of the world, and nobody wants them.